committee members that were having problems with their iPads, are they all resolved? If not, David is over in the conference room and can still work on that for you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'll call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, June 22nd. That's the second day of summer, right? I just want to remind everybody it's 72 degrees outside, and it's the second day of summer. Pardon? I know. I really have not wanted to go to work. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of May 25th? Thank you, Ms. Daly. Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Did you read them, Ms. Daly? Did you read them? Are there any corrections or additions? So everything is fine. Any corrections or additions? Hearing none. Yeah, we don't have electronics. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. I'd like to welcome a couple. Oh, thank you. Also, Mr. Rosenbaum is on the line, hoping that we will afford him permission to attend. Can I get a motion? Mr. Salzer and Mr. Fennel. All those in favor, say aye. 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 Mr. Rosenbaum, can you hear me?
Just barely. If you could speak up a little bit more, it'd help.
Well, if you come down to town, you can hear me great. How's that, Paul?
A little better, thank you.
All right, there you go. We also have some guests in the room today. I'd like to ask Mr. Setti to please rise. Does everybody know Chris? You've seen his picture. All right, so he is the CEO for the EDC. You want to introduce yourself now that I did?
Good afternoon, Chris Setti. I'm the CEO of the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. You did just fine.
Thank you. We have a public hearing with you today.
Yes, I think you probably have the script. So this is a closeout public hearing for 7 of your downstate business stabilization grants.
Thank you. I don't have a script, but I'm going to wing it. How's that? If there's a script, somebody needs to march one up to me. Also, I think we have some representatives from our auditor's office. Would y'all like to stand? Hi, your names? Hi, Brittany. Lori. Margie. How many years have you worked here? Welcome back. Nice to see you all. This is how your taxpayer dollars get spent. We would be at informational items. Mr. Sorrell, do you want to help out?
Happy to, Mr. Chairman. You obviously have 2 committee members that are on Springdale, one being the chair. Just report that there's minutes in the packet, and if they want to provide any additional information, I'd be more than happy to have them do so. Just quickly running through the other ones that are under my purview. The monthly report for loans is in your packet. The 2 outstanding loans that we have are all current, and you do have, should you want to make loans, you have assets available to make loans, although we don't have any loan projects in the queue at the moment. And then my only other item would be Headington Oaks financials, which we covered under the Finance Committee. Of those 3, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Sorrell? Just to make sure the minutes are recorded correctly, Ms. Daly is now the most recent past chairperson of the Cemetery Authority. Thank you for your service. We look forward to your reappointment. Next. Yeah, well, we have some appointments too. We're a partner. Oh, so our seat's full. Okay. Thank you, Kate. No offense. Madam Counsel, review of executive session minutes.
It remains a recommendation of the state's attorney's office that all previously held minutes continue to be held because the need for confidentiality does still exist. And also to destroy executive session audio recordings that are more than 2 years old, except for those that relate to pending litigation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salzer. Would you like to make a motion to accept council's recommendation? Thank you. And a second from Dr. Eden Blair of Bradley University. Are there any comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Paul. Any opposed? We count that as unanimous. Next item, Mr. Sorrell.
Mr. Chairman, that would be the Small Business Stabilization Program Grant Phase 1 closeout. What we need to do today, and it was properly noticed, is we need to have a public meeting or public hearing to actually close that grant program out. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to both Mr. Setti and Mr. Braun from our Planning and Zoning Department, who can walk us through that. Once they do that, we'll ask you to open the hearing, ask for any comments once, twice, 3 times, and if you have some, take it. If not, then close the public hearing once there is none left.
Mr. Setti, welcome back.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to help with this public hearing. Just as a reminder, about a year ago, actually over a year ago, in April of 2020, with your help, we were able to apply for a series of grants for small businesses under the State of Illinois Downstate Business Stabilization Program. This is funded through the State of Illinois Community Development Block Grant, which requires both a public hearing in advance of those applications, which was done probably last May or early June, and then also requires a closeout. In total, 11 grants were awarded. At the moment, we're talking about 7 grants that have been kind of fully closed out because they've been paid out. The other, you'll be doing this again probably in a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of months. And so this program offered small businesses in downstate and rural counties in Illinois the opportunity to partner with local governments to obtain grant requests equal to 60 days of verifiable working capital up to a maximum of $25,000. We were able to, I'm sorry, I had that wrong. 9 were awarded in this particular grant. The following businesses received funding assistance for working capital needs and have met the eligibility criteria of remaining open for at least 60 days after their award. A Perfect Pair Boutique in Peoria Heights of $25,000. Bartonville Express and Lube Auto Service of $25,000 in Bartonville. Carson's Jewelers Limited of $25,000 in Peoria Heights. Coyote Creek Golf Club, $15,000. I believe it's in unincorporated Peoria County. Jim's Family Restaurant, $10,000. That is in Bartonville. Novel Electronic Designs, $20,000 is in Chillicothe. Peoria Flag and Decorating Company in Peoria Heights, $25,000, and the Trolley in West Peoria for $25,000. In order to be eligible for this funding, a benefited business must have been negatively impacted by COVID-19 emergency and require urgent assistance according to the standards set forth by the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. And then this public hearing is a requirement of the closeout and allows you to complete all of the paperwork that is required under the Community Development Block Grant. That concludes the, I'll call it the testimony on behalf or the explanation, and you can then open this to any public comment, either by members of your board or by any other members of the public.
So I guess we should call the public meeting open and include your remarks.
Sure.
As part of
Yes.
that meeting. Okay, so we would be open in the form of a public hearing on this subject. Are there any questions on the report or the grant applications or use for Mr. Setti? Dr. Blair.
Do we know if all of these businesses are still in business?
The last I checked, all 8 of the ones that have received these grants are still in business.
Thank you. Others? Mr. Dillon.
Mr. Setti. So your office verified that they met all these requirements?
Our office provided all the application materials and worked with the businesses to have them apply. DCEO at the time made the determination whether they qualified under the process, and then we helped with the payout. And we know that the only other requirement is that they have to be open for 60 days post-award. And so, yes, all of those are.
So somebody, either your office or the DCEO verified that they were open?
DCEO was the one that made the grants available. So it was on DCEO to make sure that they were eligible for funding at the time they applied. And all of these were. I mean, I think you applied.
Well, I understand that, but
Okay.
I'm just saying it says you have to be open for 60 days, kept your employees hired. So who verified that these people were open so that they get these payments?
I guess you could say we did. They were open at the time of the payment.
So they didn't receive their money until 60 days after they were awarded it?
Correct, because they were actually awarded the grants back. I don't know. Would have been in February.
The checks were not processed and delivered until sometime in April.
Correct.
So they had met the 60-day threshold between the county receiving the funding and the businesses being awarded the funding.
I don't know if you want that repeated for the microphone. The county was awarded the funding in February, but did not do the payouts until April, and so all of them had met that threshold by then.
So the question is basically, so we verified that their employees received payment, or however, whatever the requirements were in here.
So they had to provide as part of the payout. They had to actually provide receipts for the working capital. For some of them, it was payroll. For some of it, it may have been utilities or rent. And so my staff worked with all of these different businesses to collect the paperwork that proved that they had $25,000 worth of expenses. Basically, they could go anywhere from March, I think it was, we'll call it April 1st of 2020 through whatever the date was that they submitted their payment request. And so we did verify all of that they had to provide both an invoice or it could have been a timesheet or something, along with copies of checks, cleared checks, or credit card receipts or payroll, other kind of payroll information. So they had to provide both to us. It had to be our satisfaction, and then it also had to be to DCO's satisfaction.
So your office verified it, basically.
Right. Ultimately, DCEO was the one that had to say, so I not to split hairs, DCEO had to say yes or no, these are eligible expenses, but our office made sure all of the paperwork was in line before sending it to DCEO.
There was a second round of funding.
Correct. Yes, we actually have one that's left from the first round of funding, which is the Shot Spot Pub, which is in Bartonville. And they were just delayed in getting us all of their information. So they've actually been paid, but they aren't part of this public hearing because of just the timing of all of those things. The other three, one is Jimmy's Bar, another is Hammer's Bar, so Jimmy's Bar in West Peoria, Hammer's Bar in Bartonville, and a company called Lakeside Custom Builders, and I think they might be in Chillicothe. That was actually what's called a reconsideration grant. They were actually denied the first time because the grant was initially intended to be for businesses that were forced to close because of the governor's orders. And Lakeside Custom Builders, which is a home building and renovation company, wasn't actually forced to close. But back in October, DCO revised and allowed companies that were denied on that basis, if they had a reduction in their in the amount of revenue, I think it was a 25% reduction year over year, they could reapply. Lakeside Custom Builders reapplied through us and were awarded a grant. So those three hopefully will be paid out in July.
So some of those you mentioned, Jimmy's Bar, for example, still have not been reimbursed.
Correct. We're waiting on DCEO to send the checks to the county so that then the county can pay those final three.
How long, Mr. City, would you say it's been since they were approved for the assistance through today?
Lakeside Custom Builders, I hate to use the word only because it's still too long, I think was in February or maybe March. The other two, Jimmy's and Hammers, I believe we got notice for them in December. It's taken a long time for a DCEO to do all of their paperwork, but nothing has been a holdup on the part of Peoria County or GPDC. It's been a very long and complicated program. I believe that Hammers and Jimmy's applied for this grant in May of 2020.
That sounds about right. Just want to get that out there that it's not EDC or Andrew, in case any of those business leaders mention it.
And we've tried to stay in contact with them and let them know what's happening. So
I know I nagged Scott quite a bit about it. Okay, so since it's a public hearing, is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? I'm going to ask that a second time because Scott said do it 3 times. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? Should I use a deeper voice this time? Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? Would you like to comment?
oh yeah, there in the first round of I think there were 20. I'm just looking, and I've kind of lost track of this over the last year and a half. There were 24 businesses that submitted under the first round of funding, and then DCEO funded 9 of those 24. I could certainly provide that. We have a list of all of the businesses that were provided. Most of them were. I guess we have it right here. If you can look at it, I won't read it off. I'm not sure it's of interest to everyone. You know, they were denied on a variety of reasons, whether they were deemed to be financially too much at risk, which is frankly a little odd, because I think everybody was a financial risk. But these were the determinations that DCO made, either because they were high financial risk, they were actually an essential business that was in operation. It was very unclear with the rules that DCO put out as to who would be qualified or not qualified under that, because they said you had to be closed, but they would take everything under advisement. So then that just let the door open for everybody, and then they basically told everybody no. So that was a majority, either because they were deemed to be too high of a financial risk, or they were considered an essential business.
All right, one more time. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment? Hearing none, I will declare the public hearing closed. We would be at the, no, it's not really an agenda item, it's a discussion, it's not, okay. Scott, we don't require a vote on this. Correct. Okay. The next step in this process is?
Next step, Mr. Setting.
Andrew has some paperwork that he's working with your treasurer and your clerk that just closes out these grants. You'll be seeing me again. We'll do this for the remaining 4 grants for Shot Spot Pub, Lakeside Custom Builders, Jimmy's and Hammers Bars, probably in the next couple of weeks. Maybe that the next time you have an executive board meeting. But there's no further requirements for you're doing the grant. It's called the GER. Grant, I don't even know what it stands for. But the last little bit is Andrew's taking care of, hopefully by tomorrow.
And
Grant evaluation report, sorry.
Thank you. I would guess that the hearing notes need to be attached to that?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Jan. All right, next item. Anybody need to leave early other than Miss Groves Allison? All right, I'll start with Kate. No committee meeting? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go to Rob. Thank you. You did not meet. How about in the back, Miss Williams? Did you have a meeting, Miss Williams? Okay. Mr. Dillon.
We had 2 zoning cases. One was to get a properly zoned industrial out in Princeville that stores trucks on it during the canning process. So they got the property cleaned up. It is now properly zoned to store trucks on. And the other one was petition of DGS Properties, which was Stark Companies at the bottom of Route 6 there. I think where it sold Illini Brick, had that brick company down there with the bottom of the hill. So if you're coming down, it'd be off to the left there. They're rezoning that property so that they can put their Peoria operations down there and then have the permit capability twice a year to basically, they'll put concrete and other products from building construction projects there and then be able to recycle them. So that both of those passed unanimously out of ZBA and our committee.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Dillon? All right. I'll go to Mr. Salzer.
Thank you. We had one resolution, but before the resolution, under our informational items, we need to mention the fact that we did hold a public hearing in regard to our national, this is an annual meeting that we have to hold for a national pollutant discharge elimination system. And Jeff Gillis from our highway department informed us that the Illinois EPA had audited us, and they had found a few of the problems and so forth that they pointed out, and he said that most of them were pretty simple, and they had come up with remedies for them, all except one, and they're working on that right now. So he seemed to be pleased, and our report seemed to be well. And as soon as they come up with a solution to this other one, then I think everything's going to be okay. The one resolution that we adopted had to do with hiring an engineering firm, and this is going to be a recommendation made by our highway department. It's got to do with Pulsifer Road out near Elmwood in that area, and it's going to be the rehab of a bridge. Now the rehab of the bridge probably isn't going to start until 2023. However, we have to have an engineering firm hired to handle this situation. The entire construction project is going to, as I said, start in 2023, and that's going to be an 80-20 project with the federal government providing 80%, and we'll provide the county will provide the 20%, and the contract, of course, will be held by the Illinois Department of Transportation. The Hanson Engineering situation, that's going to be starting, I think, in July, and they'll get both phase 1 and phase 2 of that project. The total cost of that is around $180,000, just a little over $180,000, and we're going to get $90,000 from the federal government in regard to that, and we will take out of our motor fuel tax the other $90,000, and so we approved unanimously. We're a unanimous group, and we took the recommendation of our highway department and gave it to Hanson. They did have several to pick from. They evaluated. I think she said they had 6, and then it got down to 3, and so they looked at it pretty hard. Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Member Salzer?
You didn't have to tell me to turn my mic on either.
We're all back. I'm hoping this is gone next week. Any questions for Mr. Salzer? Okay, we'd be at miscellaneous. Thank you, Ms. Groves Allison. Starting with Ms. Williams, then Ms. Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to let everybody know that the 2021 Labor Day Parade was officially canceled today, so hopefully we'll be back in 2022.
Wow, thank you. Mr. Dillon.
I know I said something to you earlier, but me and Sharon went yesterday. I know Mr. Tuttle sent out for the new 911 call center, but if you have not got a chance to tour that place, take it. It is state-of-the-art and amazing what they've done in there, and the amount of IT. I had no idea you could text 911 calls and they have that capability. The maps they have, state-of-the-art. And I never learned through a partnership they have, the AMT, they have a triage nurse full-time there that if there's medical conditions, and they have these old card systems where if you had to go through the cards for the medical, but in the new software, they type in chest pains and it walks them through it. What we have here is nowhere else in the state, and some of the capabilities that we receive through IDOT, through their camera systems, is amazing. So it is unbelievable.
Yes, everybody needs to remember there are cameras everywhere, so only scratch above the neck. I wanted to ask if the sheriff felt compelled to update the executive committee on any of our commitments to you from the last board meeting, or if things are moving swimmingly for you. Gotcha. Understood. And Mr. Rosenbaum, your committee was canceled, so you don't have a report, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anything else then for the good of the order? Mr. Sorrell.
Just one quick thing for the benefit of the order. This came in actually while we were sitting here today. Tomorrow, IDPH will be permanently closing the Civic Center testing site. So that will, I think tomorrow's its last day, and it will not reopen.
Signs of progress. Thank you. We'd be adjourned.
Thanks, Paul.